and welcome to the Last Looks podcast, a show where we catch up with talented hairstylists and makeup artists in the film and television industry. We'll pick their super creative brains and find out all the good stuff. Join me, your host, Jamie Lee, in finding out what's what in the hair and makeup departments around the world.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
As a special effects makeup artist, you need the right makeup products to make your characters look absolutely convincing, enthralling, or terrifying to your audiences. That's where Lux Skin FX comes in, specializing in high-quality makeup for professional makeup artists. Lux Skin FX carries the best special effect makeup supplies available to the entertainment industry today. Choose from their wide selection of high-performance products, including alcohol palettes, drying blood, dirt, and they even have a small cosmetics collection, all at remarkably affordable prices. Lux Skin FX prides itself on their superior customer service and quick delivery times. Message day or night to ensure you have a seamless shopping experience. Well, what are you waiting for? Bring your characters to life with Lux Skin FX. Sign up today at luxskinfx.com for your pro discount and start saving.
And now, our feature presentation.
Okay guys, so a little bonus episode for everyone because on September 13th, an incredible book is due to be born into our world. Howard Berger and Marshall Julius are introducing us to Masters of Makeup Effects, A Century of Practical Magic. So often when I chat to artists on their start in the industry and we talk about when they were a kid or a teenager, so many of them will mention a book or magazine that they managed to beg their parent to get them. And it ends up being so cherished and loved and read over and over again from start to finish. And I'm so excited that there is a book now that some of those artists are actually not only in, but it will be a first book that some young movie making, makeup effects loving kids will be begging their parents to get them, and so the cycle continues. It really is such a beautiful book, so well thought out, and so much love for the work and the community within its pages.
Pictures up. Last looks. Rolling. And action.
Welcome to the Last Looks podcast, Howard and Marshall.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Now, this is a fun bonus episode, so I can chat to you guys about an incredible book you have coming out on September the 13th. Mm-hmm. The book title is Masters of Makeup Effects, A Century of Practical Magic.
Magic. There you go. It's magic. And
magic.
Makeup. Well, makeup is magic. So there you go.
I know there is already a lot of hype around the book that I've seen on social media and online, and people are pretty excited to get their hands on a copy. So let's add to that excitement, shall we?
Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, it's been so far well received. And Marshall and I started plugging the book like 4 months out, just to test the waters. And it's been great. The pre-orders are good and people are excited. And yeah, you know, we printed a bunch of T-shirts, which we sent out to people that pre-ordered shirts. And that was fun. And seeing everybody sending photos our way and posting photos our way. Actually, I owe you a T-shirt, Jamie. And
Yes.
So I'll send it your way. Yeah, sorry about that. And no, it's been really fun. And, you know, Marshall's super enthusiastic about everything, which is great. And that's what feeds the whole process. And I mean, the reason why we wrote this book is because Marshall's been bothering me for 15 years to write a book with him. And I finally found the time because we were in the pandemic and there was nothing we could do about not going to work. So Marshall struck at that point and just said, hey, you know what? You have no reason to say you can't write a book. So let's write a book. Right, Marshall?
Absolutely. It was like finally a pandemic. Finally, Howard has no reason to be too busy to do this book with me. And I shouldn't, you know, let's just say it's the silver lining to the pandemic. At least it was for me, that I knew Howard would be home. And it wasn't just that Howard was home. It was that all his makeup buddies and all the people that he's worked with over the years would probably also be stuck at home and bored and with nothing to do. And so, they thought they might as well speak to us. Everybody loves Howard. Everybody was happy to do it for him. I mean, if I was just doing it myself as a journalist, I think they probably wouldn't necessarily have taken my call, or a lot of them anyway. But Howard's a door opener, and so that's why I don't think this book would never have happened without him. So it was worth stalking him for 10, 15 years to get him to do it with me. And it worked out, didn't it, Howard? It worked out.
It did. Yes, it was definitely, it worked out. And I think, if we had tried to write something earlier, it wouldn't have been what it is now. I mean, we spent 2 years, as soon as the pandemic hit, like it was the beginning of April, Marshall reached out and had an idea, let's do this. And I always wanted to write a book, or because I love education, but mostly there was a book when I was growing up called Making a Monster by Sue Roy and Al Taylor. And I love that book. And I still have my original copy, and I bought 2 additional copies just in case. I don't know just in case of what, but I did it anyhow. And in case the catches on fire and then I don't have my original copy. But and I always thought it'd be cool if there was a sequel to that book, because it was so interesting. So that's what I pitched to Marshall, and we talked about it, came up with a bunch of ideas, and ended up deciding to do a book that it's not a biography on individual makeup artists. So Making a Monster, each chapter is on a different makeup artist, be it Cecil Holland, be it, Lon Chaney, be it, Tom Berman, so forth and so on, Rick Baker. And we wanted to really make it more about the adventure and stories from the road, and include 1,000 photos people hadn't really seen before. So it was a lot of preparation. And of course, a lot of asking. I asked a lot of my friends and people that I wanted in the book, and they were more than happy to do it, which was wonderful. So, the pitch was to them, telling them that it's going to be chapters that are going to be about different things, like in the beginning and war stories and things like that. And we would do about a 2-hour interview with everyone, and then Marshall would transcribe everything and pull out all the quotes and so forth that we really thought applied to the different chapters. And once we had accumulated all those, assembled them, we would send them to the individual contributors just to make sure they were all good with it, because obviously we didn't want to publish anything that they were uncomfortable with. I mean, we had a couple people, after they kind of opened up the floodgates of how they really felt, called us and I probably shouldn't have said that. I'm like, that's fine. This book is not about slamming. It's not about negativity. It's all about positivity and making people laugh and enjoy, because I love stories. I love storytelling, and I love to be told stories. And all through my career, I've always been on set listening to other people's stories, and I just eat them up, because I think that's what filmmaking is about. It's about those adventures and, the relationships people have with one another. And I just find it so interesting. So pretty much everybody approved their quotes that we picked. And some people rewrote, Richard Taylor basically sent back a whole new thing. He wanted to add all this stuff. So it was 10 pages, which I love, how Richard is. And, but it was great. And also the thing is, we wanted to cast a wide net. So it just wasn't going to be makeup artists. We interviewed makeup effects people. We interviewed directors. We interviewed actors. We interviewed editors, visual effects supervisors, because I wanted to hear what they had to say. What does John Landis have to say about working with Rick Baker and other makeup effects artists? And, what is Ben Foster's relationship with Jamie Kellman, his makeup artist, on this show and this show? And I thought that was all very interesting. And how does Fred Raskin, who's an editor who edits all of James Gunn and Quentin Tarantino's movies, how does he approach things, and knowing that, all the hard work that went into things, but yet you're telling a story and your director is maneuvering and utilizing what he needs to, but how do you contend with that, And I think that's what makes it so interesting. It's not just about talking to makeup effect guys, it's talking and ladies and everybody, because it's all over, and it's international. It's not just I'm just going to talk to the guys in 706. We talked to David and Muncie at DDT in Spain, and we talked to Luve and Ava in Sweden, and the whole UK brigade, and Richard Taylor in New Zealand. And so we really wanted to reach out and talk to everybody and get everybody's thoughts on this. And then, of course, once we had that assembled, it was time to hit everybody up for photos. And we ended up accumulating 4,000 photos, and we ended up using maybe about 1,000 or so photos. And that was the hardest thing, because our editor came back and he's like, you have too many photos. You got to start kind of I know, but this is such a
everybody
cool
loves photos.
I know. But he's like, you're eating up too many of your pages and losing and I'm like, well, the stories are also equally important. I don't want to like cut somebody's, I don't want to cut Ken Diaz's story about beating the hell out of Mickey Rourke with a 2x4, so I can take put a photo in of Mickey, in the makeup that actually has real wounds because Kenny beat him with a 2x4. So, crazy stories like that. I kid you not. And stuff that was like urban legend. And I'm like, here it is. It's truly like, this is the reality of it. Like Kenny Diaz is actually telling the urban legend, and he was there. So, okay. So yes, that definitely happened.
Yeah, you would think that when we offered everybody the chance to check over their quotes, that that everything controversial would get cut out, but it really wasn't the case. There was a lot of stuff that we sent people where I thought, they're going to recant that. They're going to say, can you please not share it? But actually, most people were pretty happy to share exactly as we presented it to them. And that came as a nice surprise. So although there's not a lot of mudslinging, there's definitely some interesting and wild stories in the book. The way that we did it was that, like Howard said, we interviewed a load of people for a very long time. And what we did was we didn't worry too much about, we had, the chapters that we wanted to fill, but we didn't really worry if some of the interviews went more for one chapter than another. We basically pulled our favorite quotes, the cream of the crop of all the interviews that we did. So and we didn't fill in, there's no filler in the book. It's basically just stories, just quotes, and we cut it down to the point where we could just pack as much goodness and all the best stuff from everybody in there as possible. So it's a page turner, Jamie. It's a page turner. What can I tell you?
How do you think that you were able to kind of get people to speak so freely and be confident handing that information over for you guys to print?
Yeah, well, I think it's because I have personal relationships with everybody, and we've started off every conversation with like, listen, this is just like we're going out to have dinner. This is us, like we're just sitting around bullshitting and having a couple bottles, and Marshall and I stated, this is not a filth thing. It's not a tell-all. It's not that sort of book. It's it's like a kid laying on his stomach on his bed, looking through the book, reading, laughing, going, God, that's so cool, and it's to get everybody enthusiastic about what we do and be excited about it, and like, wow, this really is the magic of movie making and makeup effects and how it all contributes. It's a very positive look on what we do, and hopefully encourages more people to want to get into this and have a fun time. Because for me, so much of what I do is about the fun of it. Like, it really has to be a lot of fun. You and I talked about this before, Jamie, and that's a big thing for me. And I want people to understand that the film industry is fun. It can be fun, and you can make it fun. Just because there's people that don't want to have fun, that doesn't mean anything. You can still have a really good time, which I do. But we were very lucky in the fact that people trusted us. And I think, again, like saying, after we're done and we have the quotes, we're going to hand them over to you guys to take a look and make sure you're okay with it. I don't want, we don't want to put anything out there that you are uncomfortable with, or you feel that compromises yourself or somebody else, and that's not what we were looking for. And I think it worked very well. So, everybody was very receptive, and I think they trust me. They know I wasn't going to screw them over or anything like that. So,
and it also gave us a chance to, people contributed more. Like a lot of people, like they gave us the answers, but then, once we'd written it up and sent it to them, they'd had a chance to think and maybe remember some other aspect of it and stuff. So it just sort of got sort of deeper and with more detail. And I think it actually added a lot sending it to them, not just a matter of them checking it, but also I could say, hopefully, like, every single thing is, factually correct now. We have got so much in this book. We have so many people and so many stories and so many memories, but now it's been checked and double checked. And, that's really important as well. I just hate sort of muddy writing when, there's a lot of facts and figures wrong. I can't bear that sort of writing.
Well, you're the man for the job then. It's good. Hey, now I feel like when looking through the book that it is really truly demonstrating the importance of teamwork in our industry. and in our line of work. Was that an intentional move on your guys' part?
Yes, absolutely. Because it is about teamwork, and I know I talk a lot about this on a lot of other venues and so forth, and even in the trailer, it's like we all work. I use this term all the time. We all work under the same umbrella, and I feel like the whole entire film company does. We're all working towards a common goal, which is to make this project cool and fun, and provide the director, what his vision is. So yeah, to me, it is about teamwork, and I think my generation is very much like that. Like we all share stuff left and right. I mean, even the other day, another effects guy called me and was like, "Hey, do you happen to have a head cast of da 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 da?" And I'm like, "I do." It's like, "Oh, can I rent it?" I'm like, "No, but you can borrow it and use it, just like I would ask you." So it all works out okay. But yeah, I mean, I think we have to do that. We have to work together, and I know I keep pushing that on the next generations ahead of us, that like, guys, you have to work together. You have to learn how to be a team. You can't just do everything yourself, because then it's just, you're not going to get where you are. You're not going to get to the final, the finish line there, and it's not going to be as successful as if you work as a team and complement each other and lift everybody up, because that's what you have to do. It's really, really, really important with any sort of business. If you're running a restaurant, you need to make sure your employees and waiting staff and cooking staff are, complemented, and you're working as a team so that it all ends up being great. The same thing goes for this, for filmmaking and for, our departments. Like department heads yelling in a makeup trailer is the most obscene thing I've ever heard and seen. And I've seen it and from people that, are very big in the industry, or were big in the industry. And I'm like, why are they yelling at somebody? This is ludicrous. And, I never did. I mean, my wife says I yell all the time, but I just go, no, I'm not. I'm passionate. So I disguise it between that. But you treat people the way you wish to be treated. And I think this first volume of the book, and hopefully there'll be a second, because there's certainly a lot of people we did not get to interview. That's the other thing too. We gave ourselves like a 4-month window of interviewing, and there's a lot of people we didn't interview that I really want to interview if we end up doing a second volume. But there are people that I really, really like and admire and respect, and that was a big thing for me. I didn't want to talk to like this person because they're the biggest makeup effects person in the world, but they're not really that nice. Or I really wanted to talk to my friends, and I found out about things I didn't know. I talked to people that I've known for 40 years, and I found out new things about them, and that was really, really cool. And it's just a very casual conversation, and we all came from the same influences. We all loved Rick Baker, Dick Smith, Rob Bottin, Stan Winston, Greg Canham, and dreamed of being able to work for them and work with them someday. And then, working out of your bedroom and teaching yourself, because none of us had schools or barely a magazine. Like we had Fangoria and Famous Monsters. That was it. And maybe Cinemagic, and figured it out, and that's the spirit of this book. It's like everybody, how they kind of came about, how they started, how they figured this out or figured that out, or what the relationship was, writing Dick Smith, or, things like that. And it was very nurturing. And now, as we're all getting older, because I always say we're closer to 60 than we are 50 for the most part. That, we're even more, I think, more of a community now. It's like I talked to Al Gillis yesterday, just as a friendly phone call. Like probably 10 years ago, I probably wouldn't have just called, like, I'm going to call Al and say hi, or call Christian Tinsley and like, what are you doing? What's up? How's life? So I think, we're all kind of like getting to that age where we're settling in a little bit, and it's not about competition. It's about being friends. And I think that's what's really, really important.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of time that you've spent working with these people and the friendships that you make, it's definitely a pretty awesome community.
It is. And I'm very, very honored to be a part of it,
So I, of course, understand Howard's level of knowing the contents of this book, being like a makeup artist and effects artist himself. But Marshall, what was your initial understanding of the work, and how much did that change by the time you kind of completed the book? Like, are you an honorary makeup effects artist now? Or?
I actually did do some. I had some makeup done on me. I don't think that my personal makeup skills have improved that much. I understand it much better. I presented a quiz at a local cinema of mine last Halloween, and Howard sent some 3D transfers of some horrible sort of werewolf wounds. And my wife we were on a Zoom with him, and he was talking her through how to do it. And so, by the end, I turn up with this really ghastly looking makeup. I mean, like it was good makeup, but I was covered in blood and scratches and tears, and my head was, open, and it was fantastic. I think they were really surprised. The manager at the cinema wasn't quite expecting that. So it's like, I'm writing this makeup book. My friend Howard sent me a few things, and it wasn't like the sort of like thing that you'd go down to the local shop and get a bit of red on you. But at the beginning of the book, at the beginning of the process, I said to Howard, "Do you think I should like read anything? Should I, train myself up? So I understand the terms or whatever?" And he said, "No, just you're talking to everybody. We're going to be talking to everybody. Everything you need to know, you'll learn as you go along." And he was right. He was right. And also, as I think he said, it's not an instructional book. So it's not about hiding the edges, or I picked up lots of phrases, but it's not about that. It's not going to really teach you how to do it. It's more like stories behind the scenes of it. It talks about the art of makeup, but not the process exactly, if that makes sense. It'll talk about how somebody came to the design of something, but not necessarily all of the nitty gritty. It'll talk about how it's very sticky and uncomfortable, but it doesn't go into so much detail that we didn't want to put people off who maybe aren't fascinated with the industry. Like a lot of people are just movie fans, and they want to hear some behind the scenes stories about, how Jack Nicholson's Joker makeup was created, about, working with Jack Nicholson, or how Heath Ledger's Joker makeup was created, or some stories behind the making of Legend, or Harry Potter, or the MCU, or Star Wars, or so, I grew up obsessed with the same sorts of things as Howard, the same movies. I was, a monster kid myself, but I didn't go in the direction of wanting to do the makeups. I was more of like a professional appreciator. I just wanted to write about it. We just sort of came from different ends, but we were totally into the same sort of thing. But no, I couldn't. You wouldn't want me to do a makeup on you. I think it would be ghastly in all the wrong ways. It would not come out well.
That's why this has worked great with Marshall, because I'm certainly Marshall's, the brains behind all the writing, and constantly, when we were doing it, sending me his roughs, and I'd, fire back and like, I think it needs to be this or this. And we split it up. Marshall handled all the literary aspect, and I did all the visual aspect, and then did all the captions. Cause that's the other thing too. I always hated in the books, like where there was a photo of like Stan Winston with like 3 other guys who I knew. And it just went Stan Winston with unknown crew members. And I'm like, no, that's John Rosencrantz and Shane Mahan and Richard Landon. So so Marshall and I made sure that every single person that's in a photograph is in those captions. And even there were people I didn't know, like in the UK, I'd write Neil Gorton. I'm like, who is that makeup artist? He's like, oh, that's so-and-so. And I'm like, okay, she's going in the book. So
when people read the book, they're going to have no idea that there are some captions in there that we spent like 3 hours searching for a name, or for like, what is that? Or, what film is that from? Or, there was a lot of research done, as much as Howard knows and as much as I know, there were still some mysteries, and there were some mystery people. I got to say that Howard's is always very modest, and well, not always, mostly very modest, and and is amazing at giving credit. But it wasn't that I just handled the words and that he just handled the pictures. I would never have been able to do this without him. I like to think that he couldn't have done it without me as well. We're talking about a partnership. As a journalist, I've spent most of my career just sitting in front of a computer, and it's pretty solitary. I've never worked with anybody to this extent that I did with Howard. And I love the whole teamwork thing. I just always want to just be a team with Howard, really. It worked out so well. like he was the one that secured 99% of the interviews. He knew everybody, so he knew what to ask them. I mean, we both contributed questions, but it usually began with Howard thinking, well, this guy did this, or she did, that amazing thing, or that's her speciality, or so he always knew exactly, where to cut to, where to ask, and we got so much stuff because of Howard's sort of questioning. And yeah, I sort of took the lead in sort of writing it up and putting it all together and making it readable copy. But Howard always came back with amazing notes and made me better. And yeah, the captions, we thought we'd finished the book when we finished writing the book, but that was like we were halfway there. The pictures was this Herculean task. I mean, Howard got sent like over 4,000 pictures, and I totally let him, do the lion's share of that stuff. He had so many pictures to sort through. It was absolutely bewildering. And then writing the captions, that was thousands and thousands more words, and they're just, stuck all around the place. But, we got through it. It was a fantastic experience. I wouldn't have changed anything for the world, to be honest.
Yeah, no, not at all. It was perfect. It was, granted, as we all know, the pandemic was absolutely hideous and horrifying and traumatic and wish it didn't happen. But sometimes you have to go, okay, well, I'm in this situation. I felt like my wife and I were very, very lucky. We, had a nice house that we were able to stay in, and we were very creative. And this just added to it. This really made the time pass, and it was constant working on it. And like, we started thinking about it in April. We finished doing the interviews in August of 2020, and then we started writing. And we literally finished the book right before Christmas, I think, or like maybe October, or no, it was like before, like November, we handed everything in. But that didn't stop. We kept thinking and thinking and thinking. And we had a really good editor, Ross over at Welbeck, who was wonderful, and Russell, who was our designer. And it was just such a good hand in hand working relationships, because they'd send us stuff and we'd like re-edit it, and remove it and, go on Photoshop and cut and paste and like, no, this wants to go here and this is the wrong, and no, you don't want to show that photo here. You want to move this entire page to here. So it really was like our Marshall and I had our fingers on every single aspect of this book, and I think that's also why it's not like we wrote it and handed over and it's like, okay, we'll let them take care of it. No way in hell, And also, this is something that if anybody ever says, I think I'm going to write a book, it's hard as hell. It is so hard to write a book. And I mean, it was way harder than I ever thought. And the amount of time and pressure and, because we had deadlines from the editor, from the publishing company, gave us deadlines and we had to meet them. But we always did great. They always kind of fell behind on their deadlines. I'm like, okay, well, I need to have this today. And it was like, oh, we're just running a little behind. I'm like, you son of a bitches. And meanwhile, we'll get a page and like, we need this back in a week. And Marshall and I would do it that night. I'd wake up. I wake up at 4 a.m. every morning. Marshall and I would have FaceTime, and we'd go through the pages they sent us, and we'd re-edit live. And then I'm like, okay, we feel good. I'm going to send this to them. So, it fulfilled our times. The hard thing was when I went back to work, because I started work in August of 2020. It was hard to juggle, so we were limited in when we could do interviews or how we were going to talk. But we always found a time, and Marshall and I just stayed in touch. We talk every single day. We've been talking every single day for the last 2 years. So, so I'm looking forward to the next 2 years where I will not be speaking to Marshall.
You're looking forward to that.
I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure you said something about volume 2, Howard.
Well, I mean, I'm perpetuating that. That goes right into the same thing. Like I was on a movie. It was the first Narnia, and I kept telling everybody that Mark Johnson, who was the executive producer, for the wrap gift was going to be an iPhone. The iPhones had just come out. And I'm like, yeah, Mark, we're getting iPhones for wrap gift. That was completely untrue. But I felt like if I said it enough, eventually they would have to get us all iPhones. But they never did. But it's like on Orville the last season, I said, hey, Seth's getting everybody Teslas. But that didn't happen. That didn't happen either. So
you're shooting a little high there.
I know. But it's Seth MacFarlane. So, and that, hey, you know what? Speaking of Seth MacFarlane, so that was the other thing too. Like, Marshall and I talked about who would be great to do the forward and the the afterward. And I was like, God, if we can get Guillermo. So I reached out to Guillermo del Toro, and he's like, yes, of course, I want to do it. It's wonderful.
So
and,
amazing.
And I, and he was shooting a film in Toronto, and, had his hands in 100 different things. And I would give like friendly reminders, and I didn't want to piss him off, and he finally was like, listen, I've got to finish this movie. Okay. And I'm like, I get it. I'm sorry. I appreciate everything you're doing. And then when he sent it, I was like, oh my God, this is beautiful. And then he sent another one. He's like, no, I rewrote it. This is better. And then, no, I rewrote it. This is better. So I think I got like 10 drafts from Guillermo. He's like, use this one, delete the others. And then I was like, I'm going to ask Seth MacFarlane, because I know Seth is a fan of everything, and see if Seth would write the afterwards. So I reached out to Seth, and he's like, yeah, sure, Howard, that sounds great. Like, I mean, you want it like this, or you want it like that, or, tell me what you want. And I'm like, no, just talk about your experience with makeup effects. And it's like, well, I only know it from you. And I'm like, yeah, but as a kid, when you saw this movie or that movie, like, what did you think? Like, your mind has always been so active. So he wrote a beautiful afterword and talks about all this great stuff. And the first real makeup effect where he was like, that looks real, was Sloth from Goonies.
Yeah.
And he talks about that, and it's great. He credits Craig Reardon, who was the original designer of it, and then Tom Berman, who then came in and took over after Craig left the show. And he, it was just such a warm, loving, description of his childhood and what made it special as far as seeing movies that had these amazing, magical characters in it. And I just felt really, really honored that both Guillermo and Seth were a part of this book, and Seth is always, he's so funny because he was always kind of like, if it's not good, you can throw it away. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You're Seth MacFarlane. My God, you could write my cat's breath smells like cat food and I'll use it, and it's like, you're Seth MacFarlane, you're a genius. But it was so nice to have them contribute. And I remember when I talked to Guillermo, I was listing off all the people that are in the book, and he's like, and I'm in the book too. And I'm like, yes, and you too, Guillermo. So it was cool. But yeah, we were very, very lucky. I think, so regarding volume 2, I'm sorry, if I put it out there, then it'll happen. And I really want to. I mean, there's a lot of my good friends like Chris Nelson, I didn't get a chance to interview, and Adam Johnson, who owns Odd Studios in Australia, Göran Lundstrom, who's in Sweden, who's a genius. There's a lot of people. I already started my list, and there's a lot of people. I didn't get a chance to interview Tom Berman. I mean, but that was also the thing, is I didn't want to do the usual suspects. Like, we were lucky enough to talk to Rick Baker, who was wonderful as always. And I mean, I'm the biggest Rick Baker fan, although there's people that will say they're bigger, but I'm willing to do a fight club with them and see who wins.
Yeah.
But I know Billy Corso's like, I'm a bigger fan. So, but anyhow, like, we didn't want to do the usual suspects, and we interviewed people that are the top dogs, and we interviewed people who aren't the top dogs yet. And I really thought, even a guy named Rob Freitas, who I think is the best mold maker in our industry, like, I wanted to hear what Rob's take was on things, and he's so brilliant. And I think every mold he makes is a piece of art. So, we really talked to a lot of different people.
I want to clarify something. Howard,
Go ahead.
You've got to take a breath sometimes. You've got to take a breath sometimes. I'm waiting there. The time to stop speaking to me every day would have been, it's past that. It's too late for that now. The time to have sort of shrugged me off would have been 15 years ago. And by not giving me your email address, once you gave me your email address, that whole, that train started, and it will never stop. We're already talking about the next book and other things. And I actually had another idea for a book for us after that. So it's like, it's never going to end. We'll always be writing something or promoting something. There's no escape from me, Howard.
Yeah. FYI, Howard. Just
I'm well aware. I'm well aware.
I am the guy who chased you for 10 plus years to do this.
I'm going to ask you probably an impossible question, but with all those images that you guys collected and what ended up in the book, do you have a standout favorite that you're just like, man, I can't believe we got our hands on this picture?
What was really cool, I mean, we have a million photos that are magnificent, but I really loved. We reached out to Christopher Tucker, and Christopher Tucker created and designed and created the makeup for the Elephant Man on John Hurt for David Lynch's movie. And Christopher gave us access to so many photos that were really amazing. Like, and I know that they've been seen before, but these, like, he gave us like his original super high def photos that he personally took of the Elephant Man test makeup. And I thought that was wonderful. And also he had some Polaroids from Meaning of Life of Mr. Creosote that I had never seen before, which is a makeup he did on Terry Jones, the big, really giant, heavy set guy.
Wow.
And had stories about that. And we utilized those Polaroids. You know, Matt Winston gave me access to a lot of stuff of Stan's I had never seen before when Stan was younger, when he was in college, doing makeups on himself, him as a werewolf. And that was really, really special, and just a lot of great stuff. People were very, very generous, you know, and again, we wanted to make sure that we didn't compromise anybody. We wanted to make sure everybody was all good with the photos we picked. Plus, I mean, I have a great eye for stuff, and so does Marshall. And, you know, we picked stuff that was really, really special, and that was really exciting.
I told you wouldn't be able to choose a favorite, Howard.
Yeah, I know. It's hard. But I love the Elephant Man. The Elephant Man photos are
Okay.
I think, exceptional there. Sorry. I know, Jamie, you know, I go on these tangents. That's why the first time you interviewed me, it's like 2 episodes, because it's like I don't shut up.
I got my answer now. I've got my answer now. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm ready to jump in now. I realized that actually my favorite chapter of the book is the one that we call What Dreams Are Made Of. And it's basically stories of kind of childhood and teenagerhood, and basically everybody's the first signs that they loved monsters and makeup, and wanted to pursue that. And there's some wonderful stories about you where you can tell that, you know, there's a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old and they're telling that story, but you could just tell that they were destined for like movie greatness because they were just so in love with it. And we have pictures, you know, to go along with that. Like we've got a great picture of Kevin Yeager sculpting a Yoda in his bedroom, where most of you guys got your starts, just sitting in your bedroom, friendless, dateless, working on a Yoda, you know, instead of going out playing football or being social. And thank God for that, because there are plenty of social people in the world. And you became social later in life once you emerged from the bedrooms. But I love those early pictures. And there's a fantastic pictures of like Jamie Kelman in an E.T. costume that his grandma made for him. And I was like, I'm just amazed that he wasn't beaten up every single day, walking around like that. But he's just so amazing. And, you know, having got a chance to get to know Jamie a bit, it was like I would have definitely been his friend, and I would have dressed up as, I don't know, Gertie or Elliot or the spaceship or whatever, to just kind of hang out with him. So I just love those early pictures. I think that they are incredibly telling and very sweet and funny, you know. And when you see that, you know, what they were doing at 8, they're still doing, you know, 20, 30, 40 years later.
I mean, it's incredible. Yeah. It is a passion from such an early age is so exciting to then grow up and be able to do that as an adult is just.
It is. I mean, you know, I think both Marshall and I grew up doing what we wanted to do, you know, and being in this world, this immersive world of, you know, film and fantasy and horror and sci-fi and everything that's cool. You know, I mean, you know, you dream about it as a kid, and then it comes to reality. You know, you have to make it so, though. It just wasn't like, as you know, like a magic word, you know, that poof, and then like, you know, shabba-da-doo, and then look, I'm a professional makeup artist. You know, that's nowadays people think there's a magic word, but you know, it's just really having the love of it. I mean, you know, same with Greg Nicotero. He loves all this, and it still feeds him, and we all get excited. Like he just got a little Valley of the Guanji toy, and he and I are looking at it and like, isn't this cool? Look, it's just like the same size as what Ray Harryhausen did. And, you know, here's like 60-year-old guys like drooling over a toy. But if you saw Marshall's house or his room rather, it is like wall to wall toys. It's not like a mess or anything. It's very, very meticulous and organized per character, but it is incredibly disturbing to some degree.
It is disturbing. You know, every time we started an interview, that, you know, people would look like I could see them sort of moving their head around to see if like that would help them see around me better on a Zoom, and they would go, is that like a background? Is that like a fake background, or is that like your room? And then Howard say, okay, Marshall, go give everyone the tour. So it was like I gave like so many of the people that we interviewed tours. It was kind of amazing, kind of showing, Tom Savini my zombie toys and things, and kind of like, and look, and here's this character, which of course you designed and created, and now I've got 12 of them here, and so yeah.
I love how you're proud enough to still just call them toys.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean that's like, I'm not calling them collectibles. That's just bullshit. It's like I'm also not a very good collector. I take everything out of the box because I just want to have a play with it as well. So it's like I'm
course, as you should.
I'm the worst collector, the best and the worst at the same time.
Yeah, that's amazing. Now, for those that have not pre-ordered this beauty, how would they go about doing that?
Well, you could literally just do Masters of Makeup Effects in a search site, or you could look at any of our socials where we're just constantly plugging away, and you're never more than 3 or 4 posts on any of my socials away from the links to everything. So you can buy it on Amazon, Amazon US, Amazon UK, any Amazon really around the world, you can get it. We've got a signing at Dark Delicacies. You can go to Dark Delicacies. You can pre-order that and come along to the world's greatest signing. We have like over 20 of our contributors joining us. I think about 25 now, isn't it, Howard? So you're going to be able to come
something
and get
like that.
Yeah, you're going to be able to come and get your book signed there by like 25, 30 people, which is sort of incredible. I don't think there's ever been a signing quite like it. We're doing one at the Academy Museum. We're doing one at a cinema called the Montalban, and there are going to be plenty of opportunities to get signed books. But if you want to just ensure that you definitely get one day one, then Amazon is your safest bet.
Yeah, awesome. And those events are kind of towards the end of September, are they?
They are. Yeah, the Dark Delicacy is going to be September 18th from 3 to 5 and that's in Burbank, and Dark Delicacies is on Hollywood Way in Burbank. It's a super cool store. And then the 20th, Marshall and I are speaking at Mud Makeup School in Burbank, and that'll be fun. And then on the 23rd, there's a theater, the Montalban Theater in Hollywood. It's on Vine. We're doing an event. We're still trying to put that together, but it's going to be really cool. Again, a lot of contributors there. It'll be a Q&A, and then showing stuff up on the big screen, and then book signing and all that stuff. And then on the 25th of September, we're having a signing from 1 to 3 at the Academy Museum, which will be great. And we're going to have, the space is limited there, so we're going to have about 10 contributors, but there's some pretty cool people coming out. Aside from makeup artists, like Bruce Campbell is saying he's going to be available, and Doug Jones is going to be available, so to come on out, and maybe a couple of the surprise guests. But that's going to be great. So Marshall booked basically like a 10-day trip to America to be a part of that. But in between there, we have to fit in Disneyland, because we have to go to Star Wars Land and get our lightsabers, and then we have to do Magic Castle, and there's a whole list of stuff that we have to fit. I'm going to need a vacation after Marshall's here, because I'm going to be fried. So, but that's all good.
The only time that Howard and I have ever met in person was the first time that we actually met in 2006, when I interviewed him for the first Narnia movie, and he made me up as Mr. Tumnus, which is in the book. And so, in the last 2.5 years, like he said, we've been speaking every day, and not everything is about the book. Sometimes it's about all the things that we're going to do when I'm out there. If you're in the same country as someone, you'll say, I just heard about this great restaurant and let's go next week or something. We haven't had a chance to do that, so we've just got this very long list. But yes, at the center of it, the most important event in the whole trip is that we're going to Star Wars World in Disneyland, which I haven't been to, and Howard keeps going there and sending me pictures, and it's driving me a little bit crazy, jealous, but he has promised we're going to get like the fancy lightsabers when we go there, and really embarrass. We're going to be so embarrassing. Even people that don't know us, that just see us, are going to be embarrassed.
Will be embarrassed for you?
Yeah, and for themselves. I can't believe I'm at Disneyland at the same time as these clowns.
Yeah. Well, what I'm thinking about doing is I'm gonna find a burned out lot like just a burned out place, and then take Marshall and go, oh no, Disneyland burned down, we can't go. And see what he does.
Why
He'll cry.
Why would you want to?
Well, but I would do that, and then I'm like, oh, I'm just joking. Here's Disneyland, and then you'll be so happy, and it'll make that much more fun. So that'll work out.
That's perfect.
Well, guys, like the must-have makeup effects books of the past, I do believe this is definitely a book artists and monster lovers will just have to have in their collection. For some, it will be the beginning of their makeup effects journey, and what an introduction it will be. And for others, it'll be like traveling down memory lane. I just love it. I'm so excited for you guys, and I'm so excited for everybody to get their hands on it.
Me too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jamie. Thank you so much. This was really wonderful, and we really appreciate it. And yeah, I hope everybody loves the book. I think it's fun and colorful and entertaining. And if people, are in town in Los Angeles and want to come to any of those events, that would be wonderful. And we'll see you there, and come ready to meet a whole bunch of makeup effects legends. So that's
Absolutely.
great.
And once again, the book is titled Masters of Makeup Effects, A Century of Practical Magic.
Right. Good.
And it will be born into the world on September 13th. That's right?
Yes, that's the plan. The
Amazing.
plan, barring any issues in printing in China. Yes, that is the plan.
Okay.
So.
Well, thank you for creating this magic.
Thank you.
And I'm sure people will adore it and love it for years to come.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jamie. Thank you.
Of course, guys. Well done. For links to see more about our guests, go to our Instagram at The Last Looks Podcast or our website, thelastlookspodcast.com. If you want to keep up with new episodes being released, be sure to subscribe through Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Google Play, YouTube, or any podcast streaming platform. And remember, if you're enjoying the show, share it. The Last Looks podcast would like to thank Brett Stanley and Sabrina Castro. The song Fun Time by DJ Quads. Thanks for listening. Until next time.
That's a wrap, people.